Reefers, I'm Ania and welcome to ReefStock at Home. Thank you so much to ReefBuilders for giving me this amazing opportunity of being part of the show. Today we're at Gallery Aquatica and I'm going to share with you my top 10 tips and tricks for successfully cycling your aquarium. So part of the initial challenges that reefers encounter when they're setting up a new tank is going through the nitrogen cycle. And cycling the tank is actually a process whereby you're establishing beneficial bacteria cultures in your substrate, media, in your filtration, and in your rock work, which is responsible for assimilating the waste products which are created by the fish and coral. So you can see here in this very generalized diagram, the fish are producing waste, which turns into ammonia, then bacteria responsible, because the ammonia is very toxic, it's very undesirable. The bacteria then converts ammonia to nitrite, which is far less toxic in marine tanks. Then you're waiting on a second type of bacteria to convert it to nitrate, which is then uptaken by plants, algae, plankton, which in turn eaten by the fish, creating that beautiful closed ecosystem. But sometimes it doesn't quite go much like the textbook suggests. So here's my first tip. Tip number 1, choose biological media with the highest surface area to volume ratio that you can afford. Now, with the goal in mind of growing as much of this beneficial bacteria as possible to break down your waste, by providing media that is highly porous, or thereby has a high surface area to volume ratio, you're going to be able to grow a huge amount of good bacteria to break down your waste. Ensure, whichever media you choose, that it is well positioned within your sump so that water has a great flow through and not just bypasses the media. And also, while we're on the topic, never, ever, ever wash it. Tip number 2. Now, while the nitrifying bacteria is naturally occurring in marine ecosystems, it is of huge benefit if you're able to add a commercially pre-packaged bacteria product. Now, it's really important to note the difference between a live bacteria culture and a dormant bacteria culture. The dormant bacteria culture is basically going to take a little bit longer to start to wake up and multiply and get your cycle going, whereas the live bacteria is ready to go. When you get your bacteria, make sure you follow the instructions and tip it over your biological media to ensure that it's going straight into its desirable new home. Tip number 3, wet balls. Why not consider some pre-seeded media, which you can usually find at your favorite LFS or even get some from a reefing friend. Just be sure when you're going to bag up said wet balls that you're doing it completely underwater and not taking them out of the water so as not to disturb the very important beneficial bacteria colonies when you take them home and let them seed your sterile filtration. Tip number 4, keep your protein skimmer and UV sterilizer turned off throughout the entire duration of the cycle. Your protein skimmer could potentially skim out some of the waterborne bacteria, whereas the UV sterilizer, well, that's just going to zap it. Tip number 5, add an ammonia source. The population of bacteria actually is completely determined by the level of ammonia that they have available to consume. So whether you choose to add a nice clean ammonium chloride solution or the old school method of adding some fish food to rot every day, make sure you're adding the ammonia source right in the same place that you have your high surface area to volume ratio biological media. Tip number 6, test, test, test. And don't forget to log your results. So it's important to note that some of the test kits that you use to track how well your cycle's going are actually likely to never be used again. But the information is so powerful in determining how efficiently your tank is cycling and also in estimating when it could be safe to next add some livestock. So let's just take a quick look. We've got number of days and potential level. And so the first thing you see, the ammonia will go up, usually between 1 and 2 parts per million if it's all going swimmingly. And by about day 8 to 12, you've grown enough beneficial bacteria to break that ammonia back down. So you get this peak. At exactly the same time, it turns into nitrite. So then the nitrite will go up around about day 18 to 21, and then it turns back around and you get the second peak. So once you've then grown this second type of bacteria, all the waste will be turned into nitrate, which one means your tank has undergone its first cycle successfully, and two, it's probably a great time to add some livestock. Tip number 7, make an appropriate first fish choice. Now, fish will contribute to the cycle by producing the waste products which are going to feed your beneficial bacteria. And historically, we would use damsels and chromis not just because they're cheap, but because of their hardiness and ability to tolerate these excessively high nitrogenous waste levels. So the modern reef keeper is got the best option possible, and they are clownfish. Not only are they hardy, they're desirable and they're sustainable because they're aquacultured. Tip number 8. When you're adding your cleanup crew, be sure to add it at the right time. So everybody likes to increase their biological diversity, especially if you've been staring at a tank with rockwork for nearly 4 weeks. However, make sure if you're going to buy herbivores that you have not only nuisance algae for them to eat, but the right species of algae. What may be a smarter choice is to use things like Nazarius snails or omnivores, whereby you're able to supplement their diet with pellets or pre-prepared foods. Tip number 9. It's best to wait till the very end of your cycle before you set up your refugium or an algae turf scrubber. So the benefits of Ketomorpha are great. However, if you add it too early, you can get some uptake of your ammonia and nitrite, which ends up falsifying your test results, and you don't get to see those peaks and troughs, which really prove that your aquarium is capable of growing the beneficial bacteria required to assimilate the livestock's waste. At that point, once you've got a refugium set up, it's a great idea to increase your microflora biodiversity by adding copepods, rotifers, and even phytoplankton. Tip number 10, be patient. Please remember, cycled does not mean matured. The types of livestock you add in the first stages of your aquarium being set up have to be well thought out. At Gallery Aquatica, for example, we suggest you don't add any LPS or SPS until you feel far more comfortable with all the water testing and you've proven some stability in your reef ecosystem. A lot of corals really require a very well matured, stable environment, and for this reason it's just so important to just be patient, because I promise your patience will pay off. Thank you so much for joining me here today at Gallery Aquatica as we shared our top 10 tips for cycle success. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave them below. I hope you enjoy the rest of today's show. Happy reefing!
That's our video for today. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit the like button and make sure you've subscribed to our channel so you don't miss an episode of Gallery Aquatica TV. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Cam the Fish Guy. Happy reefing!